So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ivor Morgan, and I'm your moderator for today's session, which is scheduled to last for approximately 1 hour. Before we begin, I'd like to draw your attention to the Q&A box on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We really would like to hear from you, and we'd love to include your comments, your thoughts, and your questions. So please go ahead, type them into the panel, and then click send at any time you like during the webinar. I'll collect the questions as they come in, and I'll pass them on to our speaker, who will address them in the Q&A section at the end. If we run out of time for your input, we will, of course, contact you separately afterwards. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you all a link to the recording in the next few days so that you can review it and share it with your colleagues. If you wish to, during the course of the webinar, tweet, the Libris Europe handle is @Libris Europe. Our theme today is the power of Libris's connectivity. Now, as we all know, librarians every day are experiencing more complex demands in the areas of teaching, learning and research. And these demands are not only coming from students and academics, are also coming from researchers and administration staff, but increasingly external organisations such as partner libraries, funding bodies, certification bodies are implying new demands. And of course there's the ever-increasing urge from universities to improve on the student experience and to help the library to work more closely with students and student applications as well. So today's webinar will be looking at the open architecture of Libris solutions and how they can help you to answer these new challenges without increasing your workload or while increasing the impact of your library on teaching, learning and research in your institution. Our speaker today is Alan Oliver, who is a qualified librarian, and he's worked in or with libraries for more years than he would like me to mention. Alan is Libris's EMEA Business Development Director, and as such he's charged with working closely with libraries across Europe, Middle East and Africa to define new solutions to new problems, and also to look at ways in which the Libris solution set can improve and expand to help you to do your jobs more effectively. So let's get straight into the content that I know that you're looking forward to hearing, and I'm going to hand over the presentation to Alan.
Ivor, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to all of you for joining us this afternoon. I'm very pleased to have some time to talk to you about the subject Ivor already outlined, the power of Libris and indeed library connectivity. As Ivor said, we're very happy to take your questions in the Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to send them at any time during my presentation. When we talk to libraries in the region and our colleagues talk to libraries in other regions, this is a typical library challenge that we hear about. We hear very often that perhaps 80% of resources are being spent on daily routines, and the much smaller 20% is being spent on new initiatives. And of course, in these times and in these days, we want to try to find out how libraries, how you can move this needle and how we can help you to move this needle. And really the aim that we have and the aim that we're trying to help you towards is moving things in the totally opposite direction, so that 20% is being spent on routine and 80% or approximately 80% on new initiatives. We looked at many ways, and we talked with, of course, many libraries over the years. And the next slide, this slide, I want to focus on where we can reduce routine effort and where we can subsequently then invest in new initiatives. So we prepared two columns. Basically, you will see this on the slide, of things that we want to do, as opposed to things that we don't want to do. And perhaps we'll cover the things that we don't want to do first of all, or rather not that we don't want to do, but that libraries tell us that they don't want to do. So first of all, the concept of reinventing the wheel. Nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. You can see some of the detail that we've included in this slide. Dealing with support and maintenance, working with too many systems which are creating complicated workflows, investing time in basic development, relying on unproven developments, dealing with tedious implementation processes, and also spending effectively an unknown amount of time and money to actually do these things. What libraries tell us that they want is, of course, to work more efficiently and be able to invest in new initiatives. And to do that, we feel, and our research tells us, that things need to be automated, they need to be consolidated, they need to be connected, they need to be simple and easy. We need to make it easy to create new services. And of course, most importantly, we have to make it possible to add value to our staff and users, so to make more of a purpose of the things that we actually do on a day-to-day basis. So these are just some of the areas that we'll focus on as I continue in the presentation. The approach that Ex Libris is offering, and has offered very successfully, in fact, for a number of years, is really providing the foundation. And you will see in this slide, the foundation is a strong, feature-rich library platform. So that's the basis. That's what we can provide, something on which you, as the library and the community, can actually build. So what we offer are always open and extendable solutions. We are always involved in community collaboration. Our community is one of the most important aspects of our business at Ex Libris. And another thing that we do and always have done and will continue to do is transparently engage with our customers to hear what they want, what they need from us, and what they expect us to deliver. But the basis, as I said, is a strong, feature-rich library platform upon which libraries can build. The approach is basically 4 stages. We look at 4 principal areas. We look at the ideas that come from you, from the community. We look at our solutions, Ex Libris' solutions. We look at solutions extensions and connectors, so what we can add to what we have to provide better services, better value for money, and so on. And we also allow you as a library and the community to innovate, to do things on your own, to make developments and so on your own. Putting some background to this, we have these different layers. So if I talk first of all from the bottom about the community layer, we have various initiatives here, including our new enhancements voting, our idea exchange, our product working groups, community-based testing, community events, and our developer network. I'll talk about more of these, some of these in more detail later in the presentation. The Ex Libris layer are our products, what we're actually offering. Primo and Summon for discovery, Alma for library services, Leganto as a reading or resource list, Campus M as a mobile campus solution, and Rosetta for long-term preservation. And then on top of this, we have the extensibility layer. Here, we're offering our REST APIs. We're offering systems that work according to standard protocols. We're offering new initiatives, including linked data. We're offering new technology, including webhooks. And we're offering openness in a very big way. An example of this, our open discovery framework. And on top is, I guess, the most important layer. The most important layer is the library, is the community, is our customers, is people who are interested in our products, actually innovating and doing things with our solutions. Let me talk a little bit in more detail about the community layer. So the community layer is the ability, or our ability, to work together with libraries, to listen to their ideas, their suggestions and feedback, and to implement them in our suite of solutions. And I would say that this is one of the most important aspects of all of our work at Ex Libris, actually listening to what our customers, what our competitors, what our community is saying, and making sure that we bring this into our products. Our developer network, many of you, I hope, will have heard of our developer network and what it does. But basically, it's a destination for documentation and for collaboration. All of the content in our developer network is completely open, and it's available to anyone without the need to register. It's possible to post a question, it's possible to try our RESTful APIs, it's possible to comment on a blog, or simply sign up for a guest account for access to actually use our APIs. So if you haven't looked at our developer network, then I would encourage you to do that, and you have an opportunity to do so. Here's an illustration of the front page of our developer network as it is just now. You will see that there are different areas. I'm going to talk about each of them in more detail. The documentation, the blog, the forum, and also the dashboard. Talking first of all about the documentation. Ex Libris made a decision to make all of our documentation open. So everything is available here. As I said before, it's available without the need to register. So you will find in the developer network documentation for all integrations, for standards, and you will also find our API documentation as well. So if you are interested in connecting our solutions with other solutions in your institution, then the developer network, the documentation center area of the developer network is a good place to start your work. We also have a forum here, and the forum is really intended for getting you help with technical integrations that you're trying to achieve. Now, this help may come from Ex Libris staff who are actively contributing to the forum, or it may come from other members of the community who are also actively contributing to this forum. Because the expertise is not always with Ex Libris. Sometimes the expertise is in the community, and this is the way that we want to share and to facilitate sharing and making it possible for everyone to benefit from work that others have done. We also have a dashboard, and the dashboard is used primarily to manage API usage with our SaaS products, software as a service products. So if you are interested in trying the APIs, in connecting your systems, our systems with your systems, then the dashboard will be an area that you will want to look at. And you will see here information about usage, you will see information about applications, analytics, and so on. So lots of information there that will help you in your endeavors. The great thing about our developer network, in fact, is the usage. And you can see here on this slide some statistics about the usage. So every month, we have some 10,000 sessions using the developer network. We have some 5,000 unique visitors. And when you think about it, that's really rather a lot. I mean, we're a big company, but we're not a huge company. We're not Salesforce. So having 5,000 unique visitors to our developer network each month is really quite an achievement. And we have some 50,000 plus page views per month as well. So developer network really very well used. And as I said before, I would encourage you to take the opportunity to look at it if you have an opportunity to do so. We also maintain a presence on GitHub, and many of you who are more technical, indeed more technical than I am, will probably be familiar with GitHub. But here, we basically share integration demos, we share code samples, we share plugins, and we share collaborative projects. And some of the examples of what has been shared in GitHub, so for our Primo new user interface, there is a toolkit. We have some plugins for our long-term preservation solution. We shared also our migration tools for customers migrating to Alma as our library services platform. There is some sharing of Alma and Blacklight sample integration, so open source discovery. And we also shared some information related to Tableau Web Data Connector as well. So perhaps slightly more technical, but also useful for those who know what they're doing with it. So this is a screenshot of the GitHub. If you're a user of GitHub, then you're obviously welcome to take a look at it. The URL is just towards the bottom of the screen. Very important thing to say here is that Ex Libris staff are also contributing here as well. It's not only that it's the community, it's also my colleagues in the company, in the organization, who are contributing to our GitHub presence. We will shortly be giving more information about our open testing platform. Basically what this is a platform for community collaboration related to the testing of monthly releases. Those of you who are Alma customers will know that Alma enjoys a monthly release cycle. Primo currently a quarterly release cycle, and some of our other products have different release cycles, obviously, as well. And there's very much collaboration going on in many different areas, and that's not the subject of this webinar, but something that I've spoken certainly about previously. But one area where we feel that the community could really benefit, and where we hear that the community really wants to take advantage of the community, is in the testing of these monthly releases. Simply doesn't make sense for many Alma institutions all over the UK, all over Europe, all over the world to be doing the same testing. So we're looking at an open testing platform for exactly that, community collaboration of testing of monthly releases. We will release more information on this in due course. Something else that's very important, and I certainly hope that many of you have been involved with, is our idea exchange. And I will go into a little bit more detail on our idea exchange in the next slides. So here we are asking for your ideas. And when I say your, I literally mean anybody's ideas. Once again, our idea exchange is completely open. You do register, but you register so that you will be given votes. And basically what happens is that ideas can be posted, ideas can be related to software developments that people would like to see. They can be changes in the way that our products work, really any ideas, and I would encourage you to take a look. And these really matter to us. This is really feedback that we want to have. And one very beautiful thing about it is that anybody can be involved with the idea exchange. You don't need to be a system administrator. You don't need to have completed Alma certification training, Primo training, any type of training. In fact, you don't even need to be a customer, because here we truly believe that the best ideas can come from anyone. People who are working with our systems on a day-to-day basis, for example, might have a good idea that we just didn't think about because we're not doing the job that they're doing. So the idea exchange is really a very important mechanism for us to get information from anyone, really. You will see here towards the right-hand side some of the suggestions, some of the ideas, and you will see some figures on the left-hand side. So we recently increased the number of votes. So you now, when you register, get 20 votes that you can use to support ideas instead of 10. And if your idea is successful, if it gets a development status, then you get your votes back. So you don't just use them once, you get them back when something has been taken forward. And I can tell you, I'm very proud to tell you, in fact, that 36 ALMA ideas have been developed so far, and 38 ALMA ideas are already in the roadmap. So more than 70 pieces of development done based on solely on input that we're getting via the idea exchange. And if I think about last year when we did more than 500 developments in ALMA, 70 is a considerable number where we're actually taking the community input and the community desires into consideration. Let me talk now a little bit about our solutions. And I think that, and I'm sure that many of you will know about many of our solutions. I mentioned them very quickly earlier. You see them here: Primo, Salmon for discovery, ALMA for library services, Leganto as a reading resource list solution, Campus M as a mobile campus solution, and Rosetta for long-term preservation. And really, some of the things that are common throughout our solution suite. So we offer all of these with no hidden costs. We offer all of them with stable releases. In fact, it's not monthly releases for all of them, but it's stable releases for all of them and monthly releases for some of them. Our products cover all the basic and advanced functionality for libraries out of the box. I think you can be assured of that looking at our user numbers. You know, the number of libraries in the UK, in EMEA, in the world that are using, for example, ALMA, that are using Primo or Summon for discovery, Leganto, Campus M, Rosetta. This tells you that these products that we offer cover the basic and advanced functionality that libraries need. Not all the functionality, of course, and that's why we make the solutions open. We offer always as well with all of our solutions premium services, support, maintenance, project management to make sure that there's a defined project, that the product is installed, that you go live, that once you go live, there's an ongoing support and maintenance to make sure that we're there when you actually need us. We endeavor always to make our products user-friendly, and we make it possible for integrations. Again, the theme really of our webinar this afternoon. Not only integrations with other third-party products, with other systems, but also between the solutions that we offer as well. I talk for some moments now about the connectivity layer. And I mentioned this briefly earlier in the presentation, in fact. So taking, for example, ALMA provides access to its data and workflows via a rich set of RESTful APIs. The next slides go into a little bit more detail on this subject. So if you look at our developer network, if you look at the ALMA part of our developer network, and if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, and here you will see the left-hand side of the screen in a red box. So you will see here that we have in-depth documentation of our APIs, getting started, users, bibs, resource sharing partners, and so on. We also offer the opportunity to use our API console for a bird's eye view, and we offer the opportunity for you to get help via the forums that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. We have a growing number of APIs. This graph is showing you actually the number of APIs. You will see in May of 2017, it was around 140. I don't have the latest figure, but I imagine it will be a little bit higher. And what you will also see at the bottom is that the APIs are covering many of the areas of ALMA. So acquisitions, analytics, bibliographic records, course information, resource sharing partners, users, task lists, and electronic functionality as well. So it's not that we have APIs in one particular area, users, for example. That would be totally standard and completely expected. But we're offering APIs across the system, and the number of APIs that we offer continues to grow with the monthly releases. We can see here the subject areas. I mentioned them before, just to show you, as you probably expect, that most of the APIs are in the area of bibliographic records, many of the APIs in the area of user records, and course records as well. And I guess that's what you would expect. I guess when you think about the types of reporting, the types of analysis, the types of integration that you might do with external systems, then bibliographic records, users, and courses would come to my mind, I suppose, as the areas where most integration is likely. We have subject areas. I mentioned some of these already, but in terms of analytics, we have APIs making it possible to run ALMA analytics reports. In terms of configuration, we have APIs for jobs, for sets, and for ALMA configuration. In terms of electronic resources, we have APIs for e-collections and for portfolios. In terms of bibliographic records, for catalog, for inventory, for fulfillment, for collections, and also for our new digital functionality. In terms of courses, for reading lists and citations. And finally, and very importantly, for users, areas of user data, of loans, of requests, of fines, and deposit when we talk about our ALMA for digital resources functionality as well. So as I said, this continues to be enhanced with our monthly releases, more subject areas added, and continued development in this area. The usage is also something that we're very proud of. So as you will see from this graph is actually from last year, in fact, but we have now over 200,000 API calls per day across different areas. You can see in this particular graph, majority bibliographic and users, but also others. And if you looked at an up-to-date graph, you would see quite some difference, obviously, from when this was produced. Something that was very interesting, in fact, last year in December, we actually crossed a threshold. So looking at APIs, API usage as a proportion of total system usage, in December of last year, APIs actually reached 51.7%. What that means is that nearly 52% of all the transactions in that month in December were via APIs, so rather than via our native interfaces. And this shows you the level to which our systems are being integrated and connected with other systems in institutions. These are just some examples. I don't propose to read them all out. As Ivor said, we'll circulate the recording of this presentation. We'll also circulate the slides as well. But you can see here just some of the examples. University of Liège, for example, using the APIs to enable patrons to make digitization requests. Lancaster University for cash payment integration. University of Manchester connected ALMA with their Sentry security gate check. and the University of Sheffield patron card via their portal, and many other illustrations. And these are just some, in fact, of the many integrations and connections that have been made. And sometimes we don't even know about them. We don't know what our customers go on to do. And it's interesting when we get this information and we're able to see what has happened. If you are interested in other integrations, there are APIs, but there are also standard ALMA integrations as well. You will see those also on our developer network. Here again, we're looking specifically at the ALMA section of the developer network. And very important point is that ALMA supports industry standard integrations to allow turnkey and configurable interoperability with external systems. So it's not that every library has to make an integration via API. For many areas, for many parts of the system, there are standard integrations, turnkey integrations, where basically it's a case of configuring and switching on. So not always the necessity to do your own API-based development. We also have videos. If you look in this particular area of our developer network, you will see short videos. It's a little bit difficult to read on the screen, but embedded order data import, for example, EDI integration, repository import, and so on, integration with self-check machines. So these are more standard, more turnkey, more configurable switch-on integrations that we're also offering via our solutions. I love this slide, actually, and if you are a collector of acronyms, then you might love it as well. The ABCs of integrations, just some. I'm not going to go into all of these or many of these, but of course many of you will be familiar with EDI solutions from vendors. Many of you will be familiar with LDAP as an authentication solution. Many of you in libraries will be familiar with RFID, SIP2, things that you will have heard of. Z3950, of course, another well-known example. So these are some of the integrations, some of the standard, if you will, integrations that are available with our solutions. So I want to spend the next few moments talking a little bit about open discovery. Here, want to specifically talk about the PRIMO at this time, Open Discovery Framework. And basically, what this allows is you the ability to extend and to share innovations with the community. So in WebEx, unfortunately, the slide doesn't build, but let me explain what you would have seen. So looking at PRIMO Discovery, for example, towards the bottom of the screen, we give you the ability to implement our out-of-the-box discovery solution, and we give you the ability to tailor it with your own brand and design. Of course, this is very important. Every institution needs to do that. But looking towards the right-hand side and behind the arrow, we have functionality for extend or expand services and functionality. So here, we actually offer a development customization package, and we offer access to a development environment. This is basically the PRIMO Open Discovery Framework. This is how it's realized. And there, we make it possible for you to embed external services into your PRIMO, your discovery solution. We make it possible for you to develop new services on top of what we provide out of the box. We make it possible for you to add components that we may not have added. And we make it possible for you to leverage new initiatives like linked data, for example. And most importantly, we make it possible for you to share this with the Primo community. Again, to avoid the idea, the concept, the necessity of reinventing the wheel. Looking in a little bit more detail at the essentials of the Primo Open Discovery Framework, it basically is an area which allows you to customize, to develop, and to collaborate. It allows you to see immediate display of any changes that you make because you're working in a development area. It allows manageable upgrades. It's a simple way to display the default factory, out of the box, whatever you want to call it, user interface. And as I said, importantly, it allows sharing with the community. So you will see here, we describe this, I think this is quite a nice title for a slide. It's a techie's paradise playground. What it allows you to do is to customize and develop on your local server. You will see that in the top illustration with no effect on your production environment. So this is basically the Open Discovery Framework. You will see here just an example. If you look at the background color of the Search Anything box, in the top, it's been changed to a, I guess, magenta color, whereas in the production environment illustrated at the bottom, it's a slightly lighter blue than the Primo banner at the top of the illustration. So here is some examples of the Primo Open Discovery Framework in action. In this particular example, you can see that altmetrics, the altmetrics functionality has been embedded into the Primo record page. This was developed by the Royal Danish Library. And the code is in GitHub if anybody wants to utilize that. We also have some Boston University customizations here, really related to the information that you see in the illustrations. Once again, the code for these customizations available on GitHub. We're also making it possible, of course, for our systems to integrate with open source discovery systems. We are, rather than making it possible, in fact, we're actually supporting it. We're facilitating this integration with open source discovery platforms. We have very well-defined interfaces documented on the developer network. In some examples, University of Pennsylvania, where there is integration of Alma and Summon, of course, from Libris, and Blacklight as an open source discovery solution. So this is another important aspect of our connectivity. So I want to, as we move towards the latter part of the webinar, I want to talk a little bit about continuing connectivity innovation, give you some details of what we're working on. So some areas, and I'm sure that many of you will be familiar with these, so linked data support in Alma. So we're currently in the process of exposing millions of records in linked data format and also of facilitating automatic enrichment. We are moving towards webhook technology. This changes the programming paradigm from pull to push and enables real-time interaction with ALMA. And in the area of Tableau Web Data Connector, making it possible to access ALMA data in Tableau, and again facilitating collaboration with the community and the combination of data from or with data from other sources. Just to go in a little bit more detail to some of these areas, so looking at linked data support in ALMA and specifically at enrichment. So ALMA can enrich bibliographics with links to well-known URIs. So for example, language identifiers linked to Wikidata, links to authorities, and also to authors and subjects according to relevant authority files. Library of Congress, GND, for example, MESH, and indeed VIAF. So for more information on these areas, you will see a URL towards the bottom of the slide. We have here a linked data example. This is a bibliographic record. We're looking here at the new ALMA user interface. So if you haven't had the pleasure yet to see the new ALMA user interface, then here is a view. And we're looking at a particular title, clicking on the linked data tab, and you will see towards the bottom of the screen the linked data sources that have been automatically generated. This, I think, is one of my new favorite areas of ALMA to illustrate, to demonstrate, where you save a bibliographic record that you've created, you go back to look at it, and all of these linked data examples are there by magic. Not magic, of course, programming, and lots of work, but to the end user by magic. So this is a very nice area of ALMA to demonstrate. So we will continue to enhance linked data support in ALMA. We will support BibFrame version 2, and you will see here some more detailed information on that. So the midterm roadmap for ALMA. This includes planned support for representing Mark 21 bibliographic records in BibFrame 2 format. These transformed records will be accessible as exported records via publishing or via an API. And in the long term, our roadmap includes support for native cataloging in BibFrame format as well. Obviously, that's not today, but slightly longer term. Just one piece of information I want to give about a project at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So there was a presentation, a show and tell run by Igaloo and Iluna, our user groups, back last year, in fact, 1st of August 2016, talking about enhancing library discovery with linked open data. And here you can see a link to this presentation, but really I think importantly was the quote from the author, from the data strategist from UW-Madison. There are big dividends to reap by focusing its linked data efforts, talking about individual libraries. So when we think about our linked data efforts, then we truly believe that there are big dividends to reap there as well. Webhooks, moving to a slightly more technical area, I suppose, a new paradigm for communicating with ALMA. And basically what this means is when certain events happen in ALMA, ALMA will call to a customer's integration, basically, to a REST endpoint with information. So basically, I have a kind of illustration that I like to use. So if we take today's environment, if we take the way that it works today, then Alma is saying, do you have anything for me? No. 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 Do you have anything for me? Yes. Webhooks work slightly differently. It doesn't need to be asked 5 times like a small child, but rather when there is something, it calls and says, I have something for you. So it reduces load, it increases efficiency. It's a more effective and more efficient way of working. I'm not sure that my colleagues in the technical areas, the development colleagues in Ex Libris would describe it in the way that I just did, but it's a way that I can understand it, and usually when I talk about it, others can understand it as well. So it's more of a push. It's Alma pushing rather than pushing data, integration, whatever, rather than waiting to be asked. That's really the difference. So in a perhaps more technical explanation than I just gave, building a more programmable web, an alternative to polling. So do you have anything? Do you have anything? Do you have anything? So this is polling. So a push rather than a pull, allowing the systems to respond to events when they occur, basically an asynchronous architecture, and reducing the number of API calls. Now, of course, it's not that we have an aim, we have a target to reduce the number of API calls. Quite the opposite. We want API calls, we encourage API calls, but what we need to increase, of course, always is efficiency, making sure that we can always manage the number of API calls that we're receiving. And this is one of the ways that will help us with this. And finally, in this part of the presentation, Tableau Web Data Connector. So here, this is a collaborative open source effort, which is going to enable accessing Alma analytics data in Tableau. As I mentioned before, the ability to combine with data from other sources, really allowing you to create even more compelling visualizations of what is going on. And if you want to contribute to the development of the connector, then you will see the URL here. This also on GitHub. So in summary, please be reminded that you're welcome to ask questions if you would like to do that. We're in it together, basically. This is something that we feel and that we truly believe in Ex Libris, and something that is very important to us is the power of collaboration. You will see here on the bottom part of the screen some of the things that I mentioned before: the NERS voting, the idea exchange, the product working groups, the community testing, the community events, and the developer network. Looking at the right-hand side of the screen, the library experience, the product extensions, the product feedback, the industry advocacy, the institution voices, and of course our user groups, Illuna, Ex Libris users of North America, and IGALU, the international group of Ex Libris users. And then on the right-hand side, Ex Libris, as now a ProQuest company, bringing industry expertise, bringing software expertise, bringing the synergies with our parent organization, the infrastructure, and all of the many, many supporting platforms that I mentioned, really allowing us to do what we all want to do, which is to put the library at the heart of teaching, of learning, and of research. So with that, I'll give some details. As we said, we will supply copies of the recording and the presentation, so you don't need to get these just now. You'll be able to reach them later. But some of the sources that we used in preparing this presentation, and I'll finish at this stage by saying thank you for your attention, and I'll hand back to Ivor. Ivor, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. We do actually have some questions that have come through as well. What I propose to do actually is, would you be so kind as to pass the presenter rights back up to me? I'm up at the top of the list. I'm going to need those. And I think what we'll do is we'll take the questions in two halves. There's some that you can answer, but there's a couple that have come through, and I think they actually illustrate the point that you were making earlier on about openness and access. So let me first of all talk a little bit about the APIs. We are currently developing a real-time dashboard so that customers can see exactly what is happening with our API calls. And this is going to be released, I believe, sometime in the next week or so, but we do have a test version that's running at the moment. I can give you some statistics about this. So we've basically taken the API calls, we've kind of categorized them together into types of calls. And we've created a group which we've used to call users. Now, this is API calls that are to do with integrations with student information systems, to do with front-end portals, to do with mobile apps, our Campus M application, for example, but also other mobile applications. And since January the 1st of this year, those API calls that fall into that category currently total 228,684,000. So the tremendous amount of integration is taking place using these APIs between ex-Libris systems and external systems that help and support the students' experience. Looking at it from a library point of view, Alan was talking about using this openness and this functionality to be able to free ourselves from some of the more mundane tasks and give ourselves the opportunity to start creating innovative new services. And we've kind of loosely categorized these together as acquisition API calls. And these things like integration into legal deposit applications, integration into financial systems, real-time ordering, etc. And those currently stand at just over 63 million. And as I'm looking at the moment, they're going up roughly in the order of 3 API calls every second. If you want to talk about integration with learning management systems, with reading list systems, including our own Leganto systems, with course management systems, but fairly new area of integration, I think, for libraries. Most libraries are only just starting to understand how they can integrate with these and how they can use these to support the academic and the learning experience. But currently our customers, since the beginning of January this year, we're looking at around about 2.5 million, coming on for 2.6 million API calls that have been made. And the same applies across bib records, across discovery, across analytics, and so on and so forth. I'm delighted, in fact, to be able to say that the number of calls, API calls being consumed by Europe is currently in the order of about 20% more than is being consumed by North America. So we're definitely leading the world when it comes to exploiting these open systems. So welcome, guys, and keep putting the pressure on us. And just to give you a final top-level number, since January the 1st this year, up until, it's a real-time system, so I can genuinely say up until a couple of seconds ago, we had approximately 414,610,000 API calls made on our system. So this is stuff that university libraries, research libraries, national libraries, museums, other kind of institutions are actually using in real time to take advantage of the openness and to enhance the experience and to better support the experience for students and academics as well. So if we go back over to the questions, Alan, sorry, Daniela, could you pass the ball up to me, please? It's currently sitting with you. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share with you my web browser. There we go. And we are currently looking at, bear with me a second, the wrong sessions. Here we go. These are the sessions we want. So this one here, this URL you're looking at the moment is the developers at exlibrisgroup.com, developers.exlibrisgroup.com. exlibris.com, and this is where you get, in a very structured way, access to all of the technical information about our products. So you get access to the docs, the technical blogs, sample codes and applications, forums, and also the dashboards, and then down here you get access to all of the resources. As Alan said earlier, this is completely free of charge, it's gratis. You can access it, you can look at it. If you want to download the sample code, we need you to register as a guest. That's purely and simply so that if you run into any issues, you've got a quick and easy way that you can get hold of support, either from the community or from the Exlibris team as well. So that's one I recommend you definitely write down, developers.exlibrisgroup.com. Because we like to keep things nice and simple for people, we also have knowledge.exlibrisgroup.com. This is where you get hold of all of the information about our products, and this is the knowledge articles, the training materials, the product materials, the marketing stuff, the roadmap. It's all hidden here. It's all available here, and absolutely nothing is hidden to you, and it covers all of our products in a nice structured way. We did have a question. We had a question that came through from one of our participants asking us about something called PlumX. Do we support PlumX? These kind of questions that you want to get answers to, just go over to knowledge.exlibrisgroup.com, type it into the search box, and it will come up here with a list of the full text databases that are currently integrated with Exlibris systems. There was another one which was about a thesaurus, I believe. Bear with me a second. I just want to double check that I'm spelling this correctly. Bear with me 2 seconds. I think it was Remal, but let me, and I apologise if my spelling is all over the place. No. Okay. Let me double check that one and I'll come back to it again. That's definitely my misspelling, because I know that the information is available inside the database for us as well. So let me now stop sharing and we will go back and we'll start to look at some of the questions. So if you ask those questions about those two databases, or sorry, the thesaurus and the full text database, so please do go and check on the knowledge, exlibrisgroup.com. Alan, question for you. Number one, Alma and Alice. Alma is obviously the replacement for Alice. Could you just talk a little bit about at a very high level, because I appreciate it's a big subject, talk a little bit about the migration from Alma to Alice so that people understand where it fits within our plans and our roadmaps as well.
Yes, Ivor, I can. So obviously the good news is this is something that we've done very many times before. And to a very large extent, in fact, is a very automated procedure. So we have tools which facilitate the extraction of data from Alice, and we have engines which facilitate the load of data into Alma. This, in fact, is a very good area to look at the Knowledge Center. If you type Alice migration to Alma, you will find the document, as Ivor said. Everything is available, nothing is hidden, and you will be able to see details of that. If you have any trouble, just contact us and we'll point you in exactly the right direction. But very automated, very routine, something that we've done very many times, but of course always taking the local needs and requirements into consideration. You're all different, and that's something that we always bear in mind.
Super, thank you, Anna. Now, there was another question that came through. During the presentation, we made reference to electronic resources. The question is a clarification. By electronic, do we mean external databases? But perhaps you could talk a little bit about the kind of electronic resources we support, and maybe a little bit about digital asset management as well, which is a fairly new thing for Exlibris in Alma.
Yes, Ivor, I can. So yes, broadly, when we refer to electronic resources, we're referring to resources to which you subscribe, to which you take a subscription in your library. Databases, packages, there are many examples of these electronic journals and so on. As Ivor said, we've recently completed much of our development of functionality for Alma for digital resources, and really differentiation that we make here is where you own a digital asset, or you own the rights to a digital asset rather than you have a subscription to it. So we have functionality for, very huge part of Alma's functionality is for managing electronic resources, and latterly we've added functionality for managing also digital resources as well. Ivor, I hope you still hear me.
You know, I was chatting away to myself on mute, Alan. What a schoolboy error to make. I do apologise. The question was, and it was a very interesting question because I'm going to ask it twice. The question was that we talked in the discovery section about Primo with Alma and the Primo APIs and Primo development. Obviously, Summon is as important to our customers who have it as Primo is to those of our customers that are using Primo. So maybe a little bit about the plans for Summon in terms of its openness and its structure and its architecture.
Obviously, Ivor, it's indeed a very good point, in fact, and you know, the very clear statement from Ex Libris is that we have two flagship discovery solutions. One of them is Primo, and the other one, of course, is Summon. I guess really that we have illustrated in this particular deck this description, this topic was the power of connectivity, of library connectivity, of Ex Libris' connectivity. I guess it's because we use Primo because Primo is typically, but not exclusively, typically in situations where more integration is likely. Summon tends to be more of an implemented solution, a functional solution, but a solution that is less played around with, I guess, if I think in playing around with in the context of integrations. So I can only assume that's why we chose Primo as the illustration here. But very important for everybody in the session to know that our commitment to Summon is as important as our commitment to Primo. And this includes openness, summoning our idea exchange, all of those things that I mentioned apply to both of our discovery solutions.
Okay, that's super. Thank you very much, Alan. We're actually come slightly past the hour now, so I think what we'll probably do is to wrap up. There are a couple of questions that we've been asked that we haven't had time to get through. The thesaurus that I was rambling on about is called RAMEAU, R-A-M-E-A-U, and I have checked. You can get information about that on the knowledge base. And there was also a question about non-English authority subject files, which I think is probably a little bit too deep, but certainly important to the person who asked that. So we will come back to you specifically on that.
Ivor, I can say
Alan, please do.
Yes, I can say that the community zone includes non-English name, subject, authority files. RAMEAU, for example, is one. There are many others as well. So I think today we have some 20 authority files in the community zone. Many of those are non-English language.
Okay, super. So if you ask that question, you need a little bit more detail, and you can see Alan's email address there on the screen. I know he'll be pleased to pick that up from you. I have just been reminded by my staff that it is the holiday period, and they would quite like to have one. So the recording for this webinar will probably be made available to you in the next few weeks, not in the next few days. My apologies for this, but